children, from me, Henry and Nipper. Now before we start tonight's story, don't you think Nipper looked beautiful in her butterfly outfit? A pink tutu, which is a pretty little dress, with matching butterfly booties, butterfly wings, and a glittery face mask. Her multicoloured bow on her head sets off her pretty little face. Doesn't she look gorgeous? Now, before we start, are we snuggled in nicely? Then we shall begin. Tonight's story is Jack and the Beanstalk, about a little boy who has some magic beans. Okay. Once upon a time, there lived a poor widow who had an only son named Jack. She was very poor, for times had been hard, and Jack was too young to work. Almost all the furniture of the little cottage had been sold to buy bread, until at last there was nothing left worth selling. Oh dear. Only the good cow, Milky White, remained, and she gave milk every morning, which they took to market and sold. But one day, sadly, Milky White gave no milk, and then things looked really bad indeed. Oh dear me. Never mind, Mother, said Jack. We must sell Milky White. Trust me to make a good bargain. And away he went to the market. For some time he went along very sad, for after a little while he quite recovered his spirits. I may add, as well decided to ride rather than walk. So instead of leading the cow by the halter, he jumped on her back, and so he went along whistling until he met a butcher. Good morning, said the butcher. Good morning, sir, answered Jack. Where are you going, said the butcher. I'm going to market to sell the cow. Oh, it's lucky I met you, said the butcher. You may save yourself the trouble of going so far. With this, he put his hand in his pocket and pulled out 5 curious-looking beans. What do you call these, he said, asks Jack. Well, they are beans, but they're the most powerful beans you've ever known. If you plant them overnight, by the next morning they'll grow and reach the sky. But to save you the trouble of going all the way to market, I don't mind exchanging them for that cow of yours. Done, cried Jack, who was so delighted with the bargain, he ran all the way home to tell his mummy how lucky he had been. But oh, how disappointed the poor widow was. Off to bed with you, she cried, and she was so angry that she threw the beans out of the window into the garden. So poor Jack just went to bed without any supper and cried himself to sleep. When he woke up the next morning, the room was almost in darkness. Jack jumped out of bed and ran to the window to see what was the problem. The sun was shining bright outside, but the ground right up beside his bed window, there was shown a great beanstalk, which stared and stretched up as far as one could see into the sky. Oh, he thought, I'd just see where it leads to, thought Jack. And with that, he stepped out of the window and onto the beanstalk and began to climb upwards. He climbed up, till after a time his mother's cottage looked a mere speck below. At last the stalk ended, and he found himself in a new, colourful country. A little way off there was a castle with a broad road leading straight up to the front gate. But what most surprised Jack was finding a beautiful maiden suddenly standing beside him. "Good morning, Mom," he said, very politely. "Good morning, Jack," she said, and Jack was more than surprised than ever before. He could not even imagine how she learned his name, but he soon found out that she knew a great deal more about him than his surname, for she told him how when she was quite a little baby, his father, a gallant knight, had been slain by the giant who lived in yonder castle, and how his mother, in order to save Jack, had obliged to promise never to tell the secret. "All the giant has is yours," he said, and then disappeared quite as suddenly as she came. Gosh, she must be a fairy, thought Jack. As he drew near the castle, he saw the giant's wife standing at the door. "If you please, ma'am," he said, "would you kindly give me some breakfast, as I have nothing to eat since yesterday?" Now the giant's wife, although very big and very ugly, had a kind heart, so she said, "Very well, little man, come in, but you must be quick about it, for my husband, the giant, finds you here. He want to eat you up, bones and all." Oh dear. So in Jack went, and the giant's wife gave him a good breakfast. But before he had half finished, there came a terrible knock at the front door, which seemed to shake even the thick walls of the castle. "Dearie me," said "that's my husband," said the giantess in a terrible fright. "We must hide you somehow." And she lifted Jack up and popped him into an empty kettle. No sooner had the giant's wife opened the door than her husband roared out, "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I grind my bones to make my bread." "It's a boy, I'm sure it is," he continued. "Where is he? I'll have him for my breakfast." "Nonsense," said his wife. "You must be mistaken. It's the ox hide you smell." So he sat down and ate up the greater part of the ox. When he finished, he said, "Wife, bring me my money bag." So his wife brought him 2 full bags of gold, and the giant began to count his money, but he was so sleepy that his head soon began to nod. And then he began to snore, like a rumbling of thunder. Then Jack crept out, snatched up 2 bags, and though the giant's dog barked loudly, he made his way down the Beanstalk back to the cottage before the giant awoke. Jack and his mother were now quite rich, but it occurred to him one day that he would like to see how matters were going on the giant's castle. Oh dear, he's getting scaredy now. So while his mother was away at market, he climbed up and up and up until he got to the top of the Beanstalk again. The giantess was standing at the door, just as before, but she did not know Jack, who of course was more finely dressed than on the first visit. "If you please, Mum," he said, "will you give me some breakfast?" "Run away," she said, "or my husband the giant will eat you up, bones and all. The last boy who came here stole 2 bags of gold with you." But the giantess had a kind heart, and after a time she allowed Jack to come into the kitchen, where she set before him enough breakfast to last him a week. Scarcely had begun to eat when there was a grumbling like an earthquake, and the giantess only had time to trundle back in the oven. When it came the giant, no sooner was he inside the room, he roared, "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." But his wife told him he was mistaken, and after breakfast, of a roasted bullock. Just as if he was a lark, he called out, "Wife, bring me my little brown hen." The giantess went out and brought a little brown hen, which she then placed on the table. "Lay," said the giant, and the hen at once laid a golden egg. "Lay," said the giant a second time, and she laid another golden egg. "Lay," said the giant a third time, and she laid a third golden egg. "That will do for today," he said, and stretched himself out to go to sleep. Well, as soon as he began to snore, Jack crept out of the oven, went on tippy-toe to the table, and snatching up the little brown hen, made a dash for the door. Then the hen began to cackle, and the giant began to wake up. But before he could quite awake, Jack had escaped the castle and climbed as fast as he could down the beanstalk, got home safely to his mother's cottage. The brown hen then laid so many golden eggs that Jack and his mummy had more money than they ever had or they could spend. So Jack was always thinking about the beanstalk. One day he crept out of the window again and climbed up and up and up and up until he reached the top. This time, you may be sure, he was careful not to be seen. He crept around the back of the castle, and when the giant's wife out, he slipped into the kitchen and hid himself in the oven. In came the giant, roaring louder than ever. "Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I grind his bones to make my bread." But the giantess was quite sure that she had not seen no little boy that morning, and after grumbling a great deal, the giant sat down to breakfast. Even then, he was not quite satisfied, for every now and again he would say, "Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman." And once he got up and looked in the kettle, but of course Jack was in the oven all the time. When the giant had finished, he called out, "Wife, bring me the golden harp." So she brought in the gold harp and placed it on the table. "Sing," said the giant, and the harp at once began to sing the most beautiful song that you'd ever heard. It sang so sweetly, the giant fell asleep soon. And then Jack crept quietly out the oven, and going on tippy-toes, he went to the table. He seized the golden harp, but the harp then blurted out, "Master, master!" And the giant woke up just in time to catch sight of Jack running out the kitchen door. Oh, what a fearful roar! He seized his oak tree club and dashed after Jack, who had a harp tight and ran faster than ever before. The giant, brandishing his club and taking a terrible long stride, gained on Jack at every instant, and he would have caught him if the giant hadn't slipped on a boulder. Before he could pick himself up, though, Jack began to climb down the beanstalk, and when the giant arrived at the edge, he was nearly halfway to the cottage. The giant began to climb down too, but soon as Jack saw him coming, he yelled out, "Mummy, bring me my axe." And the widow hurried out with a big chopper. Jack had no sooner reached the ground than he cut the beanstalk right in two. Down came the giant with a terrible crash, and that, you may be sure, was the end of him. What became of the giantess and the castle, nobody knows, but Jack and his mummy grew very, very rich and lived happily ever after. Now, wasn't that a nice story, children? So nighty-night, nighty-night, nighty-night.